sync has connected to your phone and is reminding you that 911 assist is set to off.
For some snow and rain showers tomorrow, highs will be in the 30s. With the Connecticut Public Radio weather report, I'm meteorologist Garrett Argianis.
Our weather reports are made possible by New Morning Market and Ski Sundown. Shoe sales are down in this pandemic because we are not going places, which, yes, bad for shoe stores, but also shoe shiners and cobblers.
Now, between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., there's somebody.
I'm Kai Risdal, zooming in on the shoe business in one Brooklyn neighborhood. Next time on Marketplace. Hope you can join us tonight at 6:30.
The DNI must uphold our democratic values and ensure that the work of the intelligence community, mostly done in secret, is ethical, is wise, is lawful, and effective.
That's America's new Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines. But what does her work supporting the Obama administration's drone program say about what she really thinks is ethical and effective? That's coming up on the next On Point.
Listen tomorrow morning at 10.
Connecticut Public Radio provides you with the local news you trust most, and it only happens because of your support. Thanks for listening.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Procter & Gamble, maker of ZzzQuil Night Pain, a nighttime pain reliever designed to help people fall asleep fast. It contains diphenhydramine and acetaminophen. More at zzquill.com. And from C3. C3.ai software enables organizations to use artificial intelligence at enterprise scale, solving previously unsolvable business problems. Learn more at c3.ai.
It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Ari Shapiro.
And I'm Elsa Chang. A giant of American journalism has announced that he is retiring. Washington Post executive editor Marty Barron says he is stepping down after more than 8 years leading the newspaper. NPR media correspondent David Folkenflik joins us now to talk about his career. Hey, David.
Hey, Elsa.
Hey. So you have called Marty Barron the best newspaper editor of the past 20 years. What did you mean by that?
Well, look, Barron's 66 years old. He's had a tremendous career. He's not the life of every party like one of his predecessors, Ben Bradley, right? But he exudes a quiet and intense integrity and charisma of his own. I want to play a clip for our listeners. This is from him talking in 2014 to our former friend and colleague, our former colleague and current friend, David Green, back on Morning Edition.
News organizations need to remain ambitious. They need to do the hardest stories and the most important stories, and that they need to invest the resources in order to deliver those stories successfully. And that if it requires confronting powerful institutions, that we're willing to do that we're willing to take risks in service of the public interest.
And look, Marty Barron sure did that, whether it was revealing incredible secrets of National Security Agency surveillance under President Obama, going after the Saudis with tough coverage after its agents killed one of the Post commentators, or famously not going to war but going to work, in his words, when it came to trying to hold President Trump, his administration, accountable and transparent, really doing one form of impressive investigative journalism after another.
Well, give us a sense of, what was the Washington Post like before Barron got there?
You know, when it came to the Post, it was in rough shape. It had been storied paper, really exceeding eminence in, call it, the 70s and 80s, coming into the 90s. The Graham family had controlled it, although publicly traded for decades, and it had to be bailed out by Jeff Bezos. It wasn't clear, was this truly a national newspaper, or was it really a based financially as a metro paper that happened to be in the nation's federal city? Jeff Bezos bought it for what was for him pocket change. I think it was something like $250 million. And it took a bit to find its footing, but with new money and with a new insight into how things work digitally and online, not an area of strength for Marty Barron, the paper found its footing. It has gone since from a staff of 580 to now more than 1,000, the largest news staff in its existence. And that's really built on the backbone of the reporting of the staff and of a lot of the leadership that Marty Barron showed.
Well, we should mention that as storied as Marty Barron's tenure has been at the Post, it wasn't without controversies. I mean, he definitely had his critics, right?
Yeah, I think there's a few areas one could easily point to as emblematic. Look, he had 8 years, you're going to have controversies. I think one of his areas of some weakness was social media. A lot of younger reporters at the newspaper felt they should be able to express their perspective, not partisan views, but insights and thoughts in ways that made him uncomfortable. Similarly, you saw BLM bubble up inside the Washington Post newsroom. The questions of representation for people of color, people who've been kept to the side, that was felt in a lot of newsrooms, but very acutely at the Post as well.
Okay, so those were his years at the Post, but, you know, Marty Baron has had a long career. Remember, he was depicted in the movie Spotlight. What was he known for before he got to the Post?
Well, look, we heard his quote earlier. He talked about not only about being ambitious. I think he not only ambitious, but Marty Baron was fearless. His time at the Boston Globe portrayed in that movie, it was really him taking on the Boston Catholic Church over the issue of child abuse, an investigation built on his insight on the first day of the job. That rectitude, that toughness, going after something so powerful for Boston was something he held on to as a quality throughout his career.
That is NPR's David Volkenflik. Thanks, David.
You bet.
As financial watchdogs go, President Biden has picked an unusual one to head the Securities and Exchange Commission. He is in some ways the ultimate Wall Street insider who made a fortune early in his career. But since then, he's become a tough market policeman, pushing for better protections. NPR's Chris Arnold reports.
Consumer watchdog groups are applauding Biden picking Gary Gensler to head the SEC. But progressives were a lot more skeptical about Gensler in 2009 when he was chosen to be a top regulator back then.
Senator Bernie Sanders is attempting to block President Obama's nominee, Gary Gensler.
Before coming to Washington, Gensler worked at Goldman Sachs. He's a math whiz who made millions of dollars at Goldman and became the firm's youngest partner. So, right back after the financial crisis, Bernie Sanders was saying Gensler was the wrong guy to be policing and reforming Wall Street.
I would like to see some new and progressive voices, people who don't come from Wall Street, help the president address this very, very difficult crisis.
But Gensler got confirmed and started giving speeches that likely made financial executives nervous. He was not sounding very warm and fuzzy about the industry he used to work for. Here he is back in 2009.
1 year ago, the financial system very much failed the American public. The crisis threatened the savings and livelihood of every American. I speak to you today as someone who spent half my adult life on Wall Street. But to me, the worst financial crisis in 80 years demands the most comprehensive regulatory reform in generations.
And Gensler got to work doing just that. Salman Banai is a lawyer and economist who worked under Gensler at what's called the Commodity Futures Trading Commission.
It was in the market surveillance section.
That means that trying to ferret out traders who were doing things that were too risky or illegal. He says before Gensler came in, there wasn't actually much active surveillance going on, but with Gensler, that changed.
Which was freaking awesome. You know, we had this amazing data set and free reign to go through it and, you know, try to find bad guys. And as it turned out, it didn't take very long for us to find a number of cases and settlements.
Gensler is a driven, active person. He runs marathons, he's hiked Kilimanjaro, and he brought that kind of energy to his job as a Wall Street cop. Under Gensler, the agency brought a record number of enforcement actions and a record amount of fines for financial
go to Gary with a suggestion to make a rule tougher, as in better protecting the American public, he would agree.
Gensler was doing all this with an agency that was arguably underfunded and understaffed by Congress, and employee surveys show that morale plunged at the CFTC on Gensler's watch. But he got a lot done, and the guy progressives thought would be too soft on Wall Street was facing questions like this in an interview on PBS with reporter Darren Gersh.
Your critics say he's the most aggressive